No one left behind is more than a standard we live up to. It is a way of life. It is part of our mission. If you or someone you know finds themselves struggling with their mental health, please contact the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988 on your mobile phone or text 838-255 to speak or chat with a qualified counselor.
Hey, Hitch, how you doing?
Is it May yet?
Oh, almost. Well, I want to say welcome home, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to the very first episode. That's episode 1 of the Run for the Wall podcast.
That's right. The Run for the Wall podcast is all about supporting the Run for the Wall mission. Excuse me. It's all about supporting the Run for the Wall mission and talking about why we ride, who we ride for, and how you can get involved in supporting our veterans through Run for the Wall.
That's right. So to kick it off, we're going to start with why we ride. And this is an interesting feature. This is something that we do every day on Run for the Wall on every single one of the routes. We read the bios of some veterans who gave their last full measure of courage so that we could live in freedom that we so dearly enjoy. So I'm going to share my screen and bring up the pictures of the gentlemen that we are remembering today. On January 9th, 1971, a U.S. Army helicopter OH-6A, tail number 6716239 from A Battery, 377th Artillery, 101st Airborne Division was on a combat mission approximately 2 miles northwest of the Jiolin village of Quang Tri Province, RVN. When the aircraft received hostile ground fire and was shot down, the helicopter was operating at low altitude and low speed when it was engaged by enemy gunners. All 3 crew members suffered fatal injuries in the attack. The lost crew included pilot Chief Warrant Officer Gordon L. Wirth, Jr., Crew Chief Corporal Craig A. Sysak, and Observer SP4 David W. Lilley. It is not the worst thing to die in war. It is not the worst thing to be missing in war. The worst thing is to be forgotten in war. Say their names, never forget. Gordon Wirth, Boring, Oregon. His name can be found on panel 5W, line 36. Craig Sysak, San Pedro, California. His name can be found also on panel 5W, line 36. I happen to know Craig's family. They now live in Arroyo Grande, California. David Lilley, Coventry, Rhode Island. He is on panel 5W, line 35. Say their names. Never forget. Thank you, gentlemen, for your service.
And thank you so much, Boots, for sharing that with us, because this podcast and Run for the Wall really, truly is rooted in the why we ride, which is why that is how we will be opening each episode of the podcast.
That's right.
Now on to Run for the Wall news and events. Countdown to registration. Registration will open September 11th at 8:46 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Sorry, you caught me with coffee. The countdown to the run. The run will start on May 14th, 2025, with an asterisk there. The Midway route will leave on May 13th, 2025. They are going to leave a day early. They're going to take 11 days. But the Central route and Southern route will actually start on May 14th.
That's right. They have a few extra missions that they'd like to complete during that time, right?
That's correct. Yep.
All right, so I hope you all tuned in to the episode 0 teaser for the podcast. And if you did, you would have heard Boots tell us about the retro shirt that is for sale at the store. Right now, the store is closed, but it will reopen on September 7th. September 7th, the store will reopen online and you will be able to log in and order your own retro shirt. And I believe those are long sleeve. They look super amazing. Boots has one on right now, and he
I
knows.
do. I'm wearing one right now. In fact, I'm going to share my screen again and I'll show you the graphic that's on the back. I don't want to get up and turn around, but I'm just going to share this with y'all. This graphic is a reproduction of the very first Run for the Wall t-shirt from 1989. And
Wow.
this graphic is on the back. It shows the Lincoln Memorial, the statue that is right outside of the Vietnam Memorial Wall. Then there's the Washington Monument. We have the Parade of Riders coming into DC, and of course the wall itself right there. It's a great shirt. I love mine. I bought two. And again, I do want to mention, when these shirts are gone, they are gone. We printed a limited quantity. And so get yours, buy one for a friend, buy two for yourself. I love them. I think they're great.
No, one shirt a piece, people. One. I'm picking. No, but once that store reopens, I will be jumping on to get one for myself. And I
That's right.
love the graphics on that, the depiction of the Washington Monument as well as the Lincoln Memorial, which, I mean, that's where the photos happen, right between those two memorials at the end of every run. So
Yeah, that's
super
true.
cool.
We normally we take the picture on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. However, this past year, and I want to mention this because it's important. You know, the
Mhm.
whole reason of this podcast is to get information out there.
Yes.
Not only to the people who already ride on Run for the Wall, who come
Hmm.
back every single year,
Hmm.
but also to the new generation, the next FNGs who show
Hmm.
up. And remember, FNG is just a term of endearment for a first-time rider on Run for the Wall.
That's right.
Those of you who know what FNG means, you know what it means. But it's a term of endearment, and we're glad you're here. But what I was going to say is, normally the tradition is to take the picture on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. But
Right.
this past year, we couldn't do that because the Lincoln Memorial is under construction.
Oh.
They're refurbishing it, they're cleaning it, and they're also building a new, like a museum, I believe, in the basement down below. Where the bathrooms used to be. A lot of people didn't know you could go below the Lincoln Memorial. You actually can, and the new museum, I understand, is going to be pretty phenomenal. But anyways, we had to take our picture facing the Lincoln Memorial in front of the reflecting pool. And I think that turned out great. You can see that photo on the Run for the Wall website, rftw.us. I believe if you actually go to the shop page, it's on the shop page. You can see it there. And I do want to mention, if we have to do that again, we've been asked, I think regardless whether we're on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial or in front of the reflecting pool, remember, Run for the Wall riders, we have to get permission from the Washington, D.C. Parks and Recreation Department in order to gather there and assemble and take that picture. And we always have to, it is difficult. We've been rejected, and when we have to petition and ask for permission several times, some years, it differs depending on personnel. But we are there at their discretion, and we have to abide by the rules that they lay forth. So last year they asked us, they said one of the stipulations is we can't sing, we can't chant, we can't yell. Because oftentimes we like to say, how far are we going? And then everybody shouts back all the way.
Right.
Or we get the USA, USA chants going, which I love. We sing the national anthem. We recite the Pledge of Allegiance. It's really a fun time. It's a blow off steam. We just did 3,000 miles across this great nation. And many of us are about to embark on our 3-day run to the Sandbox, on the Sandbox route to the Middle East Conflicts Wall in Marseilles, Illinois. The thing, though, is we can't get up there and scream and shout. And it's really important. It's not just us Run for the Wall leaders and directors making rules for no good reason. If last year there were a few people who started to do some chanting and so forth, and that was unfortunate. We had a few people who tried to quiet them down, maybe in not such a dignified manner. But remember, we're all representatives of Run for the Wall, and we got to pay attention to these things if we want to be able to continue our tradition of assembling, taking those pictures. And remember, if one of our fellow riders is singing or chanting, there's a right way to say, "Hey," shh, and there's probably a less dignified way to say, "Hey, shh." So let's remember that we're under the public eye everywhere we go. When we have a Run for the Wall shirt on, or hat, or a vest, brassards, whether you are a FNG, leadership support, a road guard, a fuel team, staging crew, ambassador, any part, just a supporter of Run for the Wall, that we always have to remember that we're in the public eye and we want to be dignified in how we conduct our business. Even if we're telling another fellow rider to, hey, we gotta not chant at this moment in time. So, anyways, I got off on a tangent there, but it's worth mentioning because
it is, and I was wondering why the photo was going the opposite direction.
Now
I was like, oh, hey, maybe a new photographer, new ideas. Hey, fun new generation, right? Like,
that's right.
Let's change it up, shake it up. But that's really important, and it's also something that I think in 2025 will have to be put out possibly repeatedly on the run, like during the day 0 through 9, so that when we get to DC, people know, hey, we can't. Like, it's not us making this rule.
That's right. And everywhere we go, every town we go into, we've got state coordinators working really hard, not only to get hotel reservations, work with local law enforcement, make sure that they know we're coming through when we're coming through. We have to work with them because of the way the road guards ride. For those of you who don't know, when we're riding on Run for the Wall, we don't stop when we're riding as a group all together. We don't stop at stop signs or stop lights. We hold on ramps. The road guards hold on ramps so the group can go through all together and not have traffic breaking up the group. And that's really important that we keep in mind that we're guests in all of these communities that we come into, and we're representing not just Run for the Wall. We're riding for all those who can't.
Right.
And that's a really important thing. We're honoring our veterans. And so we want to make sure that we're riding and conducting ourselves in an honorable way in each and every town we go to, at the pre-run in Ontario and at the post-run in Washington, D.C., and also in Marseilles.
All right. So today's topic.
Oh, one more thing, Hitch. Sorry. I did want to mention, I just looked up on the website, RFTW.us, and the 2024 group photo is available. You can download it.
Okay.
It's provided by Jim Hoofer McCrane. Hey, Hoofer, thanks for taking the photo. We really appreciate it. Anyways, you can also look up past year's photos, and that is on the shop page. So if you go to the Run for the Wall website, rftw.us, click on the yellow shop button at the top, and that will take you to the shop page, and scroll to the bottom, and that's where the group photos are located.
Okay. Now, are those available now, or will they have to wait until the 7th?
No, those are available. Those are available right now because they're outside of the e-commerce system that we use to sell regular merchandise.
Okay, awesome. So today's topic, with this being the very first episode, we thought it would be a great opportunity to introduce ourselves better, for you all to get a deeper understanding of who we are and why we ride, since we are your hosts for this journey. And anytime that we have a guest join us on this podcast, we will likely be asking them similar or the same questions. It'll just be, sort of our format that we'll follow. So I am going to interview, I'll call it an interview. I'm going to interview Boots, and then we will switch. Okay?
Sounds good.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. How did you learn about Run for the Wall, or how did you get involved?
Okay, so I'm a lifetime motorcyclist.
Okay.
I've been riding since I was almost 4 years old, 3.5, something like that, and I've done every kind of riding, a lot of road racing and touring, and all different kinds of bikes.
Okay.
I love my Harley Davidsons, but I ride everything, as you can see. This is back in 2016. I've been involved in the Kiwanis Club. I'm a Kiwanian, and I was at a regular Kiwanis meeting, and we had a speaker present in our local town. At that point, I was living in Pismo Beach, California, and Ross Curry, road name Snake Charmer, presented about Run for the Wall. And one of the things I always wanted to do is ride my motorcycle all the way across the United States. I'd never gone all the way. And also, to honor our veterans, I didn't quite have a grasp on what I was getting myself into.
Okay.
So I went home and I told my wife about it, who also rides motorcycles. And she said, "Oh, we've got to do this." And then she also said, "We have to have Ross come make a presentation to our motorcycle club,
Okay.
Coast Riders." That was a motorcycle club that is in San Luis Obispo, California, that I'm actually still a member of that club too. So Ross came out and made a presentation to Coast Riders, and that's where my wife Kelly first saw the Run for the Wall. And I don't know, we were maybe 5 minutes into Ross's presentation, and she leans over and she says, "We have to do this." So I'm like, okay, great. So at that point in time, I didn't have a touring bike. I had a Ducati. Kelly was riding a Kawasaki Ninja 650R. And she said, "I love to ride, and we go on, day rides and maybe a couple of overnighters." But she said, "I don't think I can ride all the way across the United States." And so I said, "Okay, well, let's rent a big touring bike." So we rented from Eagle Rider. Look at all these free publicity I'm getting giving these groups.
Let this be the last time. And pause. We need you all to tune in to these episodes, because the more listeners and viewership that we get across platforms, the more sponsorships we get. And if you listen to episode 0 on how Run for the Wall is able to, support such a large mission with such a low registration fee, that would just be funds back into the RFTW pot to continue our mission.
That's right.
Okay.
So back to the story. We rented this Harley. I figured, we're going across the United States. Let's ride a Harley. I love Harleys. I still have my very first one. It's inside my house. But it'd been a few years. It'd been a minute since I'd owned and ridden a big touring class Harley Davidson. So we rented from Eagle Rider. We decided to go down to the Harley store and get familiar with the big bike. How much room do we have to pack our stuff? What do we need to bring? I wanted to be familiar with the bike because, Kelly's going to be on the back. We're going all the way across the country. I went to, I'm going to do it again, Santa Maria Harley Davidson. Hey, Chris and guys. I ended up buying a Harley from them, the same one that I was going to rent on the ride. Because I'd already paid my money to rent the bike, we ended up renting it. We did the run. About, I would say, day 2, about the time we pulled into Gallup, New Mexico, when we went up there to the Navajo Nation and they did that amazing presentation, Kelly was in tears and I was completely dumbfounded. I had no idea. I didn't know what we were getting involved in.
Now, what year was this, Boots?
That was 2017, was my FNG year. I wore my FNG button. Everywhere I went, people said FNG. They gave me hugs. I was not a hugging person, I got to tell you. I am now, but everywhere I went, people were giving me hugs and saying to me, "Welcome home." And I'm like, I'm not a veteran. I'm a grateful patriot. And to have guys who were serving in Vietnam when I was in diapers come and give me a hug and thank me and say, "Welcome home," it brought me absolutely to an emotional place that was just, I can't even describe it. It was amazing to me. So that's how I started on Run for the Wall. I had no idea that I was going to do it every single year. I had no idea that I was going to become part of the leadership. It wasn't, when I saw the way the road guards ride. Look, I race motorcycles. I've done motocross and trials and road racing and supermoto and, sliding the bike into the turn, backing them in and all that kind of crazy stuff. But when I saw the road guards ride, I thought, oh, I'll never do that. Well, of course, and now I'm a road guard, but no,
So
go ahead. Hitch.
what I find very funny, you're like, I wasn't a hugging person. I literally have a patch on my vest that says free hugs.
Yep. I know. I saw that.
I also have one that says troublemaker. So let's go. All right. So the why you ride. Why do you ride, or who do you ride for?
That's a great question. I ride for every single man and woman who have served in our armed forces and our first responders. I never took the opportunity to serve my country. My dad, Leonard Kapner, is an Air Force vet. Thank you, Dad, for your service. Thank you for being a great father and a model citizen. My dad is a true mensch. He was in the Air Force and was in Saigon, and I think 58 or 59, real pre-Vietnam. I don't think he considers himself a Vietnam era veteran, but I ride for him to honor his service. I ride for the first responders, the men and women who ran into the burning buildings on 9/11. I ride for the 19, the Granite Mountain hotshots who died right here near us in Prescott, Arizona, over in Yarnell. For those 19 brave men who gave their last full measure of courage in that tragedy. That's why I ride.
All right. And so you mentioned that your first year was 2017. How many times have you done the run now? And were you all the way or participant? And with that, I'm going to put the pressure on you, to explain the difference between all the way and participant. Because I think that's a good place to bring that up for people who are thinking, I can't go on a 10-day ride.
Yep. So we say, I'm public relations. So I say you can go one leg one day or all the way. If you go all the way,
I like it.
That's right. If you go all the way, we have a little patch that says all the way. We also have a patch that says participant. So if you just want to ride I have a bunch of guys in my local hog chapter who joined us on day 2 in Williams, Arizona, and just rode day 2 to Gallup, New Mexico. They're fully part of the run. They got their FNG badges. You're only an FNG once, but they didn't go all the way. It doesn't make them not a Run for the Wall participant, but all the way is a special thing. I think most of those guys, and you know who I'm talking about, Bob, I think they're going to go all the way, or they're going to go maybe a little bit further this next year, because once you get that Run for the Wall in your blood, it's like, wow. I mean, this is so crazy. It's not just a motorcycle ride. It's a mission. But back to the question. So my FNG year was 2017. I went all the way. In 2018, I did it again as an assistant platoon leader. That was when we met.
Right.
We'll talk about that later.
Right.
I went all the way again in 2019 as a APL. In 2020 and 2021, we didn't have the run because of COVID restrictions. We weren't allowed. Certain states said, you're not coming through our state. So we ran into a lot of roadblocks, and, as everybody knows, we don't have to go into the long explanation. Because of the lockdowns, shutdowns, and what have you, we just couldn't do it. So we came back in 22. I went all the way as a road guard, and I went all the way again in 23 as a road guard, and I also went all the way this year, 24, as the assistant road guard captain. And all of that is on the central route. I said my first year. Oh, I also went all the way on Sandbox this past year as a
Nice.
road guard. Yeah, as a road guard. Now, that being said, I've only done the Central route and the Sandbox route. I do have plans to go on the Midway route and Southern route at some point in time. So, not this next
Trader
year.
much?
No way. I want to experience all that the Run for the Wall has to
I
offer.
know.
And I have friends on Midway, and I have friends on Southern route, and each route has its own flavor, and I want to go through all of those other towns, and I want to experience the differences and the nuances of every single route. So at some point I'll do that.
You have me stressed out. Let me know when you plan on doing the other routes, and maybe I too would like to try them, but hey, maybe we can embark on that
I'll
together.
let you know.
So you actually already answered the next question, which was going to be, what roles have you held on the run? So awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a good one. How do you prepare yourself for Run for the Wall physically and emotionally?
Okay, so right, a 3,000 mile motorcycle ride where you're riding all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be in shape physically. So I mean, I mountain bike and I go to the gym, and it's I think it's important to make sure, even if you walk just like a half hour or an hour a day, to make sure that you are physically fit and prepared to be on your motorcycle and concentrating for 8 or 9 hours a day. It's really, really important. Emotionally, holy cow, what a question. I don't know. I don't know.
And I would say emotionally, you have to be prepared and work yourself out in that realm too, because especially with the population we're dealing with, a lot of people tend to stay to themselves or not be as social. And now you're coming together in this large group, one. So, you're not isolating. And then two, the things that you will experience, take a toll. I think that's a hard question, Boots.
It is a hard question, but I'm going to give an answer here because, it's a question, needs an answer.
Yes.
I am emotionally, I'm the type of person who wants to take it all inside and not show my emotions, not express it. I think what I need to do, what I do is I get myself in a position where I can show up emotionally for those around me, not just for me, but to be there for those who are healing and who need it, and to lean on, some of my best friends on the run. Because every year riding across this great country, when we go under some of these overpasses and they're lined with people with flags, with the big signs that say, "Thank you for your service, welcome home." And I see the first responders with the ladders set up and the flag hanging down. I mean, I am crying inside of my helmet because of the patriotism that's shown, the humanity. It restores my faith in humanity is what it does. And so I lean on the people who are closest to me, and I get myself prepared to not be afraid to lean on them and let them know, what I'm going through. Even though I didn't, I'm not a veteran. I didn't go through what you went through. You're a combat veteran. And so I don't know what that's like, but I do know that the appreciation and the gratitude that I feel for all of those who have served in all wars. And so that hits me. And there you go.
So on the run, what would you say is your favorite experience, or has been your favorite experience, or an experience you look forward to every year to date?
Well, I got to tell you, since I've become a road guard, I look forward every year to riding with the road guards.
Wow.
Not just that. I mean, I love everybody else on the ride and meeting people and working with the platoons and the FNGs and everyone. But there's something special, a bond, because of how the road guards ride and what we do. I love riding motorcycles with those guys. I cleaned up my language. I hope everyone appreciates that, because we have a little saying. Thank you, Tom Miller, for that. Tom started saying how much he loves riding motorcycles with the road guards, and I'm carrying on that tradition since Tom has retired as a road guard now. But I do so much love riding motorcycles. These are some of the best motorcyclists I've ever ridden with, and that includes all the people I've raced against in competition or just track days. The road guards are a special class of riders and a special class of human beings.
All right. So, what is your favorite run for the wall stop?
Oh boy, I should have been better prepared for these.
I know they're hard questions. We may have to give the questions to our guests ahead of time. I don't know, maybe, or maybe we'll just like, bam, surprise them.
There are so many great stops. You know, I mentioned Gallup, New Mexico, and again, my frame of reference is Central Route. So there's so many great stops on Midway, on Southern. I will tell you that one of my favorite stops, and here's this just occurs to me right now. I'm gonna go Sandbox Route, and I'm gonna say the stop at in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, at the Flight 93 Memorial.
Okay.
Just because it was so intense, and I'd never been there before. It was such an honor to be there at that hallowed ground, to learn the stories, to learn more about the plane, the flight, the actions of the individuals, the brave heroes who stood up to the terrorists, to honor their memory. That was an amazing experience. And if you've never been there, that is a stop on day one of the Sandbox Route. I definitely am going to go back there and spend a little more time, but I'd say that one stands out to me right now. It was amazing.
Okay. Let's talk best meal on the run. And, again, since you're up first, I am going to put it on you to explain where meals come from. Like, do we buy meals? Do we?
So I'll tell, so when your entrance fee or your registration fee on Run for the Wall, really, one of the things you get with that is pretty much breakfast, lunch, and dinner are provided during the run through the generosity and donations of supporters of Run for the Wall. So, and unless you go out for food, I can't imagine you would, because there's so much food that's provided at every stop. I mean, in Ontario, we've got the CMA, Christian Motorcyclist Association, providing breakfast burritos to everyone. On the first day, we stop in Needles. There's lunch provided. It's chicken tacos or chicken salad. This year is hot dogs and hamburgers. Every stop along the way, the food is provided, and it's plentiful and excellent food. It's
good.
So to hone down on the best meal on Run for the Wall, there's so many good meals, but I gotta give a shout out to Wentzville, Missouri. We've got ribeye steaks at the end of a long day that are so amazing. That is something special. They sit out there all day. When we pull up, we come up the hill. The whole town is out there. There's children waving flags. There's signs. There's banners. There's music. We pull in there. It's just amazing. So thank you to everybody in Wentzville who makes that happen. What an amazing way to honor our veterans and the Run for the Wall. And I mean, steak, it's so fantastic. And then in the next morning, we gather there again, actually the church across the street, but the breakfast is provided by the same organization there in Wentzville. And the breakfast is just as good. It's phenomenal. They've got biscuits and gravy and eggs and on and on and on. So Very good. That's right on up there.
Okay, a fun question. What do you ride now?
Oh boy. So I have a bad case of motorcycle acquisition syndrome, as you can tell, but I'm
Yeah,
just going to
because
talk
that's in
about
the
the,
DSM. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So on the Run for the Wall, I ride a Harley Davidson Ultra Limited. Um, it's a big touring class bike, and I've kind of, as everybody does, customized it and modified it to my tastes and liking. But it's a great bike. It's a great bike to road guard on, and it's super comfortable. I can go all day on it. You know, it's an awesome bike.
Awesome. What advice do you have for FNGs?
I would say, um, get ready for the ride of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Just come on out and do it. Don't overthink it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's such a great ride. I'm trying to think if there's one little bit that I could give an FNG. Um, talk to somebody who's been on the run before. Go to lunch, go to coffee, and
That's good.
hear what they have to say about packing, about what kind of helmet to wear. And I'm gonna talk about helmets and tech tips later, so I don't want to get it too far into that now. And also about how to prep your bike. So that's what I do. Just get ready because it's gonna be one heck of a ride.
And some of that information can actually be found on the website,
That's true.
rftw.us, because that's what I based my packing list off of.
Yeah,
My
so if you
FNG
go
year.
onto the website and you go to, it's called Newbies, and there's a page for new participants. We have a whole bunch of information there for new participants. And then we also have frequently asked questions. So pertaining to just general issues or registration issues. So,
All right, and I think you've already mentioned a little bit about what your plans for 2025 are.
yep. Yep. I'm going to be again on the central route. I'm going to be riding as the assistant road guard captain, and I am going all the way.
That's what we like to hear. So
Yeah.
that is just not even a little insight on who Boots is. That was a big insight on who Boots is, why he rides, what some of his experiences have been. And of course, as we continue to record these episodes, you'll learn a lot more about us. But the goal here is just for you to at least feel a little more familiar with us outside the
Yeah.
room. Yeah.
Okay, so now it's your turn, Hitch.
Let's go.
Are you ready? Okay.
I mean,
So here it comes. You're gonna have to fess
Okay.
up here. How did you learn about or get involved in Run for the Wall?
Okay, so I was living in Colorado Springs, Colorado. That was my last duty station. And I got out and went to college. I'm a clinical social worker. So I'm in my program minding my business, okay? And Freddie Crash Strickland was in my class. He is also a clinical social worker. And one of our professors, like, they're talking about riding, our road. And so, Freddie started talking to me about this run. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's nice. Have fun with that. And I didn't have a bike at the time. So my first bike was a Katana, Suzuki Katana. I got it immediately after getting home from being deployed because that's what we do, right? Come home from deployment, buy a bike. So I took the motorcycle class on post, got the Katana, and then I upgraded to a Gixxer 1000. So my bike got stolen. So I did not have a bike at the time when I met
Yeah,
Freddie.
Gixxer 1000 is a good bike for a beginning rider. I'm just gonna.
No. I started on a Suzuki Katana, okay? It
Okay,
was like
all
an
right.
89, and this was in
Yeah.
like '05. So it was nicknamed the Beast, and I probably have pictures somewhere. So I started on that, but one of my friends deployed again, and she had an R6. So I rode her R6 for a season. Then I got the Gixxer. Okay, is that
Okay, all
better?
right. Much better. I'll buy
Okay,
that.
okay.
You went from super sport to super bike in road racing terms.
Yes. So Gixxer, someone stole it, and I didn't have a bike at the time. So chatting with Freddie, he's talking about this ride. Well, I'm originally from Washington D.C. So after undergrad, I moved back home to go to grad school, and I knew every year Freddie would come in with this group, right? So every year I would plan to link up with Freddie and I for that one day, that Friday. So you all would come in, and then I would go link up with Freddie. I'd go to dinner with with the group. So I already knew people. Like I had already met people. Kay. So I was just not a part of the group, but one day a year I was meeting up. So my FNG year was 2018. I had gotten another bike and I decided, all right, Freddie, I'm going to do it. And that's how I got involved. Crash.
Right on.
Who's a road guard?
Mm-hmm. All right. So, why do you ride?
Oh my goodness. So I was deployed from '04 to '05. I was in Ramadi, Iraq, and we lost several people. We did, and there was nothing like one day, I was supply. So I would go to get supplies and do things, and one day I would be laughing and joking with someone like only a specialist E4 could do.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day go back and I'm like, oh, so. And they're like, about that, they were killed in yesterday's attack, or, you know, they were ambushed on a convoy. So I ride for the people whom I knew who were KIAs from that '04, '05 period of time. And I mean, that's personal to me. Of course, I'm a veteran. I have a love and respect for all veterans and all those who've given their lives. So overall, yes, that's the overall umbrella. But that stem that comes down that I hold on to are those people I knew. So that's why I ride.
Right on. So, how many times have you done the run?
Two. So 2018 and 2019. And of course, you already explained that in 2020 and 21, there were no official runs. In 2022, I had just given birth. So the baby and I did show up, and we are in the 2022 photo. We are.
That's right.
We're in the photo. And then in 2023, instead of making it down to the wall that year, I linked up with you all at the hotel.
Right.
I'm always, wanting to connect. So I met up with you all at the hotel. And this year, there was a slight scheduling mishap. And I was on an Alaskan cruise during that time.
That's all right.
I know when the run is, but friends that I was traveling with, they booked it, and yeah, it
Yep.
conflicted. So, but twice. I've done it twice, and I've linked up with you all in the years that I haven't been able to.
So now I just want to ask you a question about 2018. Now, you said you went all the way twice.
I
You went all the
did.
way. You went all the way in 2018.
I did, and so did my bike.
Yeah.
We
Do you want to
made it
talk?
all the way.
Do you want to talk about that?
I mean, okay, so I I mean, okay, I made it all the way on my personal bike up to a certain point, let's say around about day 5.
It was day 5. Yeah.
And then
If
there
I
was
remember correctly, it was in Topeka, coming through Topeka, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
sounds about right. And so
So do
there
you
was
want
a
to
slight
tell what happened, or you want me to?
well, let's back up a little bit. Let's back up to my
Okay.
road name. Ooh, that's a good one.
Oh,
We need to add that. We need to
how'd
add
you get
that
your
to the
road name?
questions.
You're right. We do. We
Okay, I'll
do.
make that update. Okay, so my F&G year, Boots, at the time Captain America. Okay.
That's right. That
At
was my
the
road name back
at the
then.
time, Captain America was my APL, or assistant platoon leader, and we had Bruce as our platoon leader.
Right.
And when we pull in for fuel stops and things of that nature, you may or may not be in the same order that you were in for the previous leg of the run. So there was one particular stop, and I ended up right behind Boots.
That's
So
right.
I'm number 2. I'm number 2 in line. And that was one of the longer stretches. And they tell us to keep it tight. Like when we ride, they say keep it tight. So basically, I'm following instructions here. Okay?
That's right.
I follow instructions well. They said keep it tight, and I kept it tight. We made it to our next stop, and people who were riding behind us, or was that you, walk up to the back of Boots' bike, and they're like inspecting the tires and everything, and they're like, I'm trying to see if anything left, because she was on it like the entire
You were hooked up. Well, and the thing is on the first few legs of the run that year, you're an FNG, you're not used to riding, side by side and tight the way we ride. And you were not quite as close to the bike in front of you as we
because
wanted
I
you.
did not trust them.
That's
Carry
right.
on.
And so I said, you just get behind me, and I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be so smooth. I want you to get as close as you can, because, just get close. Friends, she was so close. It was like, that's why people were looking at my bike to see if I had a trailer hitch, and she was hooked to the trailer hitch. And so,
And I mean,
thus,
we were not on a straightaway
no, she was hooked up. So that started
So
us
yeah,
thinking
of
about
names.
a road name of Hitch.
No, it was
But
Trailer Hitch. So
it was
y'all were like, "Oh,
Trailer
we're gonna call
Hitch.
you Trailer Hitch," and I said, "Absolutely not. I don't like that." So we shortened it to Hitch.
To Hitch.
So
But
for a few
there's more to the
days,
story.
right? So for a few days, I was Hitch, and that's how I earned the name Hitch. We get to
Right.
Topeka,
Uh-huh.
and the whole following closely, and it had been raining. I was trying to avoid hitting the bike in front of me.
Well, and so we had a perfect storm.
Yeah.
It was raining.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming through a construction zone.
Yeah.
And it was a perfect storm. So you take the story from there.
Yeah, and so I was just trying to avoid hitting the bike in front of me, so I just veered out of formation, as I'll call it, and took a wobbly path to to the side of the road.
Some very, very, very wet and soggy grass.
Yeah, and that's where I landed. I landed on my feet, though. I was covered in mud,
You
but I
did.
landed on my feet. But unfortunately, my bike was not able to be ridden, so we put it on one of our tow vehicles, And
Because we do have chase vehicles, everyone.
mhm,
Run for the Wall has, if you have a mechanical or if you have an accident, we have the chase vehicles and a chaplain corps
mhm,
who will stop and make sure you're okay. And if your bike
absolutely.
needs to be loaded, we load it up and we transport it to the next Ford dealership or what have you. But okay, go ahead, Hitch. Sorry.
Right. And, shout out to Stony because
Oh yeah,
he actually brought my bike all the way back for me, which is not necessarily the run policy because we do have
it
policies in
isn't.
place like Boots just mentioned. They'll get you to the next Ford dealership or something like that. But again, I lived where the run was ending. I lived 2 miles from the host hotel of where the run ends. So
Yep.
let's
So
put
a shout
that
out to Stony for going above and beyond the Call of Duty there and getting
completely
your bike
above and beyond because
all the
that's
way
not
home. Yeah.
something that he had to do by any means, and I understood that. Um, so Boots actually, spoke with his wife who wasn't with him that year and came to me and offered to put me on the back of his bike
That's right.
for the remainder of the run.
No one left behind.
That's right. And when I tell you I was a passenger princess, I've never been on the back of a bike, see? And it was in those next few days that I started to rethink my entire life. Passenger princess, I was. Heated
So,
seats and everything. I was like, is my seat heated?
yep,
I didn't
we,
know that was a thing, people. I did
it
not
is.
know.
It
But no,
is.
so he put me on the back of his bike. But before that, again, I was totally fine. Landed on my feet. Um, I don't know. I guess Boots has part of a story there. You said like a few stops from there. I was like on the side of the road waving.
Yeah. So here's, from my perspective, I was running at the front of the platoon and we have helmet to helmet communication between me, the platoon leader, and the two tail gunners. And so FaceTime, Todd Taylor was who's now a road guard. He was the tail gunner that year. And when we were coming through there, I was calling out, "Hey, we're coming into construction, slowing, slowing, slowing." And then I heard Todd say, "Uh-oh, we got a problem. We got a bike down. Oh, it's Hitch. It's Hitch."
Mhm.
I said, "Is she okay?" And Todd was like, "Oh, she's up. She's down. She's up. She's down. Oh, she's on her feet." Um, and then we lost comm because, I keep going. Todd pulled over to make sure you are all right, I
Mhm.
believe. Um,
He did. He was
and
the first person there
right.
behind me. I just knew I refused to go down on asphalt. I like when I say I worked my way over, I worked my way over to the grass,
It
trying to
did.
be as safe as possible.
But it was, I think at the next stop, I didn't see you because we had a fuel stop. And then it was beyond that. We were riding again as a pack and I hadn't seen you. I heard you were okay. But then Stony stopped at the side of the road for another, a mechanical or something. And as the whole pack was coming by, I saw that the chase vehicle was over on the right side on the shoulder. And I could see you waving your arms and jumping up and down with that big smile. And I thought, oh, thank God, there's Hitch. She's all right.
Okay.
But it was after that I called Kelly and I said, Hitch's bike, it's broken. It can't
Hmm.
go on. And I can't leave her behind. She has to complete her mission. And Kelly just said, because you met Kelly in Ontario. She was
Right.
there
We
to
met
see
in
us off.
Ontario. Yep.
And I have pictures from that. And Kelly said, well, she's going all the way. And I said, yep. So Hitch got on the back of my bike and we rode the last 5 days of the run all the way to the Vietnam Memorial Wall in
Yes.
Washington, D.C. We also went into Arlington that year,
Yep.
Arlington National Cemetery. But that is the second part of why you're called Hitch. It wasn't just that you were so
Right.
hitched up to the back of my bike, is that you hitched a
So
ride on my bike.
right. I said, started off as a trailer hitch and I ended up as a hitchhiker. So
That's right.
I figured that was a pretty fitting name.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite Run for the Wall memories. And that's what Run for the Wall is all about, is bringing people together. And now we've formed a lifetime friendship.
Yes.
And Hitch is one of
Family.
my dearest dearest friends and family. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Even when your daughter came to the area, I
Oh,
hung
yeah.
out with her and took her around. Yeah, so.
That was great. Okay, so let me go to the next question here. I got to change my screen over. Ba, ba, ba. Okay, so what roles have you held on Run for the Wall?
Well, my favorite role was that of FNG because no, let me tell it. There's some things that FNGs get to do that the others don't, like going into Arlington Cemetery. And then there was one stop, I can't I can't think of the name, but FNGs get to do like the wreath ceremony. I got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So FNGs just, and people are so welcoming when they see that FNG button on you. Well, they're welcoming to everyone, but after your FNG year, you know everyone. So, but they really embrace FNGs. And honestly, going in as like at the age that I was, I was in my 30s,
Mm-hmm.
African American and female. Like I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going in? Like, what am I, what am I going into? Like I was the only black female on Central Route. So it's like, oh, what? Yeah, yeah, I was the only one. So I was like,
Yep.
what? Like, what is this going to be like? And when I tell you, it is all like it's family. It is all family. So that was my favorite position, F and G. The following year, I was on the communications team with Bounce.
Yep.
So shout out to Bounce. I love you, Bounce.
Hey,
And
Bounce. Hope you're doing all right.
and I believe it was, I can't remember if it was FNG year or the second year where I was selected to participate in a radio interview. So
Oh, that was the second year,
that
I
was the
think.
second year. So we broke
Yeah.
off. I remember Gomez, Go
Yep. Go,
Gomez.
go.
Uh-huh. So broke off with him. Love riding with him. Loved riding with you, Go. And I learned some things riding with you. So thank you for that. Um, so those are the things that I've done on the run in those 2 years.
Awesome. So, how do you prepare yourself for Run for the Wall physically and emotionally?
I would piggyback on what you said about exercising. So exercise is important, making sure that you are able to build up the stamina, taking care of yourself because there are a lot of people out here with back injuries. I'm one of them, and things like that. So ensuring that you're as physically fit and strong as possible, but also stretching. Stretching is big for me. I do a lot of stretching, but also just as important is either a refresher course or practicing skills.
Oh, good one. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get out and ride and
Yeah. Even during the
practice
time
those low speed
periods,
skills. Yeah.
right, the times where I didn't have a bike, I would still do refresher courses every year. And with my bike now, I would get out and practice skills. hmm
Awesome. How about your favorite RFTW experience?
Favorite RFTW experiences? I would say making trades with people. So on my vest, I have, well, I bought a a chain to the vest fastener. I bought one when I got my vest in Ontario. And then on the run, Sarge and I, we talked a lot of trash back and forth because he was a Marine and I was in the
Mm-hmm.
Army, so it was a never ending. But we swapped. So we swapped. So I got rid of the Army one. I walk around with the Marine Corps um chain. And then we got to another one of our stops, and I met a man there. He wasn't a part of the run, but he is one of the people who comes out annually to support. And so I'm sitting talking to this older gentleman, and he had on his vest, and he had a chain that he had made by hand, decades prior. And he gave it to me. And so that became my second chain. And so I crisscrossed the two. Those are the ones, and they just mean so much to me. So
That's
that,
great.
and like, or how you got the original the original shirt from Gunny last
Well,
year.
I returned that back to Gunny because
Okay, but yeah,
that was a loaner. Yeah.
oh, that was a loaner. But those
Yeah.
are the things, like making those trades. And oh, the elementary school. How could I forget?
Oh, at Raynell.
Yes, in West Virginia.
That's amazing. What a stop.
Yes. So
We'll
so
talk
those
more
are my
about
favorite.
Raynell, but yeah,
Yeah, those are my favorite experiences.
awesome. Um, and well, what was your favorite stop?
Favorite stop, Gallup, New
Yeah.
Mexico. I'm actually wearing a shirt from
Oh
Gallup
yeah.
right
Best
now.
shirts on the run. Holy cow. They
Yeah.
have such great graphics there.
Yes, so that's my favorite stop, and just how they welcome us, but at the same time, they're able to immerse us in the Native American culture there.
I gotta say, that is that's when you know you're on Run for the Wall on the Central Route. When you get to Gallup, New Mexico, and they do the drum line, and they
Yeah.
have all the Native Americans out there, and um, we're dancing, we're doing flags, we're
Mhm.
to understand more about their culture, and even about the code talkers,
Yes.
the Navajo code talkers. If you don't know what that is, look it up. They were essential as part of our armed forces in communicating because they could communicate in their Navajo native language, and none of our enemies could have had any
Mhm.
clue. Couldn't even break the code. Um, so it's quite an amazing experience to go up there to Gallup. And just see and to take everything in, and just to be welcomed in such an amazing way. What a patriotic town Gallup is.
It
I
is.
love that stop too. One of my
It is.
favorites. Okay, how about your best meal on Run for the Wall?
Best meal? Well, I mean, all all the food is good. And I don't
That's
want
true.
and I don't want any judgment for this. I don't want any judgment, but the thing that stands out to me the most is it Angel Fire? Where they have that gigantic cake.
Oh,
Because
Eagle Nest.
oh, the Eagle Nest.
E-
Yeah. I
Eagle Nest, New
Eagle Nest.
Mexico at the
Mhm.
Senior Center. Yeah.
So I am a big sweets and cake. Like, I'm the type of person, I like real icing, So I love that big cake.
Okay, now for our listeners, how big was that cake?
Ooh, they're like, it's the size of the table. Like,
I
it's
know it
it's
was like 2 feet by 3 feet.
gigantic at least. At
It was
least.
huge. And you know what? They have that giant cake. They have one of those every year, and I
Mhm.
understand it's the same woman who makes that cake every
Yeah,
year.
I
And
love
last
it.
year, I actually asked about it because I was standing there looking at the thing before they allowed us to dig into it. And I said, "How do you bake such a big cake?" And she said, "It's actually like four or
And I
six
was gonna s
smaller
I
cakes."
was gonna
Yeah,
say, if anyone is knows about baking, it's the size of about 4 sheet cakes. And a sheet
yeah,
cake isn't the small one that you get for a birthday party. That's actually a quarter of a sheet. Like, when you go to the
yeah.
grocery store, those are like quarters. So put 4 of those together, and you have a
Yeah,
full sheet. So yeah.
that's another great stop. That's day 3 on the Central Route up at Angel Fire near Taos, New Mexico,
Mhm.
and we stop in the town of Eagle Nest.
Eagle nest, yep.
And they're so welcoming, and I believe that we probably double the population of Eagle Nest when we pull in there.
I think we do, because there aren't a lot of hotels and places to stay. And actually, my first year, I was I was with Crash. We roomed together, and he and friends of his knew someone out there who has a log cabin. So we stayed in a friend's log
Yep,
cabin. It was pretty sweet.
yep, yep. Okay, so Now, what do you ride on Run for the Wall?
A victory hammer. I have a victory hammer. After the first year, and I found out that heated seats and hand grips were a thing, I added those modifications to my bike. I did. I have a heated
Right
seat
on.
and heated hand grips now. Hmm.
Okay. Advice to FNGs.
Well, what I wish someone would have told me is that although it's May and like the end of May, it gets cold on Central Route. Freddie Crash, I feel like he checked my gear when I arrived the first year, like, oh, let me see what you have. No, those gloves aren't going to work. And in Ontario, we went to a motorcycle store and he had me get like battery like heated gloves. He had me buy heated gloves because I just had
Yep.
like thicker gloves or something. He was like, yeah, that's not going to work. And I remember one of the stops, I was freezing. We pulled up at a gas station and I already had the reputation of being all happy and smiley. I did not get off my bike. I sat on my bike after we pulled up just like this.
I remember you were cold. You were
And you
very
all
cold.
were like, well, why don't you go in and get coffee or something? Like that at that point it had to come down to like mind over matter. And I think that was when we left Eagle Nest because when we woke up in the morning it was cold there and I had my gloves on, the battery, like I had them turned on, and it died while we ride.
Yep.
So,
Well, you bring up a great point, and that is, for Central Route, anyways. When we leave Ontario, California on day one, it's usually in the low 60s as we're heading out. Okay, because we're inland Los Angeles basically, and then we ride through Barstow, and by the time we get into Needles, it's usually 100 degrees plus 103,
it is
could be
hot.
105. It gets hot in Needles, California. But then we continue to move east and we go up all the way, from basically from sea level at 65 degrees to the high desert in Needles where it's 105, give or take. And then we go all the way up in elevation to Williams, Arizona, which is at, I think, darn near 7,000 feet. And again, as we get into Williams, the temperature drops back down into the mid 50s or lower. And depending on what's going on weather-wise, it could be snowing or sleeting in Williams. So
Mhm.
you really have to prepare for the weather, the hot and the cold.
Yes, pack
Yeah,
layers.
that's right. Okay, how about tips for all riders?
I would relate that to the previous experience I just explained, where it had to come down to mind over matter and just really remembering that you're there for a mission. The mission needs to be completed and maintaining a positive attitude.
Yep, awesome.
Mhm.
And now, what are your plans for this coming year, Run for the Wall, the 35th annual Run for the Wall in 2025?
Woohoo! So this coming year, I will not be riding because I am going to bring Valor with
Uh
me.
huh.
So I'll be chauffeuring one of the youngest FNGs. So I'll be Cage in
So
some
you're going to
type
be
of
a four
leadership.
wheeler.
Yeah, I'll be
Yep.
a four-wheeler. I'll probably do maybe some type of leadership support
Now,
vehicle or something like that. We'll see.
I can't speak for Kelly, but uh, I know that she's been talking about the possibility of riding along with you and Valor. So
Okay.
you might have some company on that ride.
Sweet. I'm here for it.
All right.
Let's embark.
Sounds good. Okay, well, everyone, that wraps up just the sort of the interview of get to know your hosts, Boots and Hitch. We didn't talk about how I got my nickname Boots, but or my road name Boots, but we could talk about that some other time because we're getting a little long here. But let's move forward. What do you say?
Yeah. What tech tips do you have for us this episode?
All right, so now it's time for Tech Tips with Ted.
I like
Um,
it.
yeah, so that's going to be a regular recurring feature of all of our podcasts, and we're just going to talk about different things every time that that are important to our riders. Uh, and the one I'm going to talk about today, I think, is important for all riders. And so the tech tip for today is dun 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 tires. I want to talk about tires.
All right,
They're
let's hear
round
it.
and they're black, and they're on all motorcycles. So when you're getting ready to go on a 3,000-mile motorcycle ride, and for me, because I ride from my home to California and then to Washington, D.C., and then last year from Washington, D.C. to Marseilles, Illinois, and then back home, I did darn near 7,000 miles, all said and done.
Wow.
You don't want to start a 7,000 mile or even a 3,000 mile trip on worn out tires. Really, tires are so inexpensive when you consider the cost of what can happen if you hit inclement weather or even run through a puddle
Mm-hmm.
on tires that are worn out or worn down
Mm-hmm.
or just plain old. Tires, I realize that tires have gotten pretty expensive. It's darn near $500 for a set of tires for a Gold Wing or a BMW or a Harley or an Indian or a Triumph, whatever you ride, a Victory. But still, when you consider if you have an incident because you ran through some water and your front tire was worn down and you end up taking out another rider or another car or property damage or physical damage, tires, it's just an easy thing to do. So check your tires, check them often, make sure they're aired up to the right pressure. If you don't know what pressure it is, usually it's printed on the sidewall of the tire, but you can also go online if you're running Dunlops or Pirellis or Michelins or Metzlers. You can go on their website and it will tell you for your size of tire, what is the recommended pressure. So check your pressure, check it often because tires generally, they bleed out air constantly. So, I have a full shop, I have an air compressor, I check my tires all the time, make sure they're aired up to the proper pressure. The other thing I want to mention is with tires, they can age. So even though, like, let's say you decide to do Run for the Wall and your motorcycle's been sitting in your garage for 5 years and you decide to get it out, maybe take a rider course, ride like a pro or Yamaha School of Champions, something like that, a good, nice advanced course. And you get your bike out and the tires were new 5 years ago. They've been sitting in your garage, heat cycling, outgassing, drying out. Put some fresh rubber on your bike. It's just such an important factor that often gets overlooked. And I see a lot of guys who want to get the most out of their tire. They want to get the last 50 cents out of that worn out front tire. And believe me, I have pulled people out of the pack, and other road guards have pulled people out of the pack because they were on bald tires. And we just can't, we can't do that because it puts all the other riders in jeopardy. So make sure your tires are in good shape. The other thing I want to say, and Hoofer, you can cover your ears right now. Running a car tire on the back of a motorcycle is a bad idea. Talk to any tire expert. It's just a bad idea. Motorcycles have to lean and they need a curved tire. Car tires are squared off because cars don't lean. When you go into a turn on a car tire on the back of a motorcycle, your contact patch is greatly diminished. And that means that you have less contact between the motorcycle and the road, and it's easier for the motorcycle to lose traction. Tires are not that expensive when you consider how much they can save you in going down, not just damage to your motorcycle, but damage to your body and other types of property damage. So tires, check them out. Get new tires before you go on a long ride, whether you're going on Run for the Wall or you're just riding a Sturgis or down to the beach. Check your tires, air them up, and replace them if they're old or worn out.
Thanks for the tech tip, Ted.
You got it.
So this portion of the podcast we will reserve for Q&As, letters, from you all. But obviously, this is the first episode, so we don't have any.
Right.
But we look
So
forward
tell
to
me,
it.
Hitch, if I'm a listener and I have a suggestion or a letter or a question, where do I send it?
So you can send us your correspondence via pod at rftw.us. That's pod at rftw.us.
All right, everyone. Well, we hope you made it to the end of our first episode podcast for Run for the Wall. And we're really excited about it. We want it to be special. We want it to, encourage you to reach out to a friend, let them know about Run for the Wall. Come on back to the Run for the Wall if you haven't been on it in a while. Check us out online at rftw.us. That's our official Run for the Wall website. We're also on social media. You can check us out there. We have YouTube videos. We have a TikTok account, which we're going to be more active on in this coming year. And we're really stoked that you tuned in and hopefully you listened this far into it. So again, if you want to find out more about Run for the Wall, connect with us on the internet through our website at rftw.us.
So until next time, how far are we going?
All the way.
See you next time.
See you in May.